This channel is supported by TrueFire. TrueFire is an online library of lessons from some of my favourite players. There's thousands of lessons on there. You can use the promo code JNC40 to get 40% off of any of their courses. I just unboxed this and forgot to press record, but this is the HX1, which is Line 6's newest thing. If you're wondering how it sizes up to all of the other parts of the Helix family, the HX Effects, it's like that, so it's smaller than that. HX Stomp, it's like that, so smaller than that as well. It's USB-C, and one real key thing that it has in its kind of pocket that these don't is that you can power it off of a normal 9-volt supply. So none of that messing around with trying to find the right power supply for it. This has your HX Effects. I was looking at a Tom Bukovac video the other day, and he had an M9, a Line 6 M9 on his board. Mark Lettieri still uses an M5 on his board. I think Rob Harris from Jamiroquai, I've seen a Line 6 M5 in the background for some of his stuff as well. So this seems like the logical successor to that. Conceptually, you know, obviously it's HX1, one effect at a time, but if you know the Helix family, you can do quite a lot with one effect. And it's got this flux control and tap tempo, so you can get, you know, quite a lot out of this. Does it need to exist? I think it might be the sort of thing that a bunch of people might find a use for. For me personally, I can think of times if I was taking a tube amp to like a bar gig where I wouldn't want to necessarily take loads of other stuff. I might just want like a delay, I might want a reverb, or I might want an envelope filter. That's the sort of thing I've done with the HX Stomp before. To have that in a smaller pedal that can go on your board already, because you don't have to worry about the power, I think it seems like a good idea. Let's turn it on and see if indeed it is. I did get sent this for free. Yamaha asked if I wanted paying to make the video, and I declined because it's a Helix product. I'm interested in them anyway, and I would have probably bought one anyway with my own money. So I felt like I don't really need the money for showing you this. It's the HX1. So just some kind of quick stuff here. This is maybe how I might use it. I'm just going in the front of a Matchless Lightning kind of clone over here. I've used it, this is what I was using it for in the intro there, just the looper, so you kind of got a... this high cut thing here, which we could actually control with our Flux control. So if I press that, basically when I press this Flux, we're basically going to morph it. We can go between two settings with this switch. And you can change the time it takes to do that, or the shape of the curve. Same with the off time, so that's kind of useful. So that's this Flux thing, which is kind of what's unique about it. It's kind of like switching between snapshots, but you can control the time that it takes to do so. So that's kind of cool. Now if you press the two buttons here, you get into your preset mode, and so you got your things like your particle verb. You go into your effects, you've got all of the normal stuff. So things that I think this might be worth investigating for are some of these reverb tones. So the dynamic plate is one of my favorite reverbs in the world. It might even be. So for instance, let me set that mix a bit higher. Okay, so we could then try other bits and pieces. Let's go back into preset mode. I kind of put this one on here. So this is a poly sustain preset that's really hard to run on a full signal path kind of Helix, but you know. And you could set this interval to change. So let's just do that. Go into our take that down to 0 milliseconds, and it's just be a normal switch then, I think. Kind of useful. So you can make all sorts of cool sounds with it, obviously. Got all your normal kind of delays and stuff. If you've not seen any Helix stuff, then this might seem new to you, but as well as, let's just check out the pitch stuff. So here we have things like the polycapo. Where are you, polycapo? So and our interval there is -2. Or you got a 12 string as well. For whatever you might want to use that for. A question that I need to try and satisfy for myself is, does it have any trails if you switch between presets? So particle verb and that. So let's turn them on first. So on. No. So you're not going to get trails between. Probably need to check that that's definitely true. If I go into all these other settings, there's a tuner in here as well. But it doesn't seem. So you get trails. Turn on or off the effect, but changing between effects you don't. So I guess that's about all I need to show you on some of that. Obviously you've got MIDI controls, all of the effects that you'd have in the Helix, and you know, all of the updates that are going to come, any of that sort of stuff. So all of that cool stuff. Doesn't seem to have trails when you switch between presets. It does have a load of other presets, like everything seems to be covered in here. So this is the fuzz. I don't think they should have started off with these as their stock presets, because it kind of, to me, fuzzes in the front of an amp from Helix don't necessarily show off what it can do. But yeah, I think does this unit bring too much to you? So I'm someone who's got an HX Stomp that I'm basically using all the time, and I basically use that pretty much for everything. And so if you're in that boat, I'm not sure that the HX1 is necessarily going to be for you, although I can think of a couple of uses for it potentially. Or if you've got a Helix floor, again, it feels like this is more for someone with a traditional pedal board, is what I'm feeling like. And you could think about this in place of something like an H9 or some other multi-effect, I guess like a Zoom Magic Stomp type pedal. The contexts that I could see this making sense are, say you're an HX Stomp user and you found that you don't really have much DSP if you're running a full signal chain in there. You could run one of these up front to kind of augment that, so you get one block. So this is going to feel kind of stingy for HX Effects users or HX Stomp users or Helix users, but I'm kind of dealing with a one block at a time kind of deal. But say, for instance, yeah, you need to run a pitch algorithm. You could run the polycapo on here and run that in front of your HX Stomp. Or, you know, say sometimes you want to run the poly sustain. That was something I used it on a gig for on Friday. I did use it once through the gig. I stuck it on my traditional pedal board. The good news is that it can be powered with 9 volts, 500 milliamps. So yeah, there's no real hard sell on this one. I guess if you're a fan of the Helix stuff, you've probably already got an HX Stomp or an HX Effects or a Helix floor. If you've not checked out some of that stuff, then maybe this would be a way in to check some of that stuff out. For me, I really love the reverbs in the Helix world. I really love the amp modeling as well, but that's of course not in here. One model at a time, one algorithm at a time, essentially. I think the pitch stuff in here is definitely worth looking at, because that's brought to you by the same team that essentially used to work for Digitech. So the pitch algorithms and stuff like that on here are pretty banging. Context for how I might use it. There are times when I felt like taking an HX Stomp to a gig where I'm using a real tube amp doesn't really seem necessary. And particularly if I've got it on a board, it has been tricky in the past to power an HX Stomp alongside other boards. You need all the right leads and stuff. In that case, where I was maybe just using this for reverb or delay or something like that, then I could see the HX1 being a pedal that I might take. Or literally, this has been a thing that I needed for a gig where they were playing Mr. Brightside in B major. For the context for that, I was like, well, I'm not going to bother with that, so I'll just play it in D major like I usually would and drop the pitch down. I could have used something like this for that, and I actually did buy a Digitech Whammy DT specifically in case that kind of job came up, but now I guess that's less necessary because I've got that, which could do the job. Could be powered by most pedal boards at 500 milliamps, 9 volts. Let's just jump in. I'll show you some bits and pieces with it. You could also run it in 4-cable method. Similarly to the HX Stomp XL when that came out, it kind of raises an eyebrow or 7 for me, but I do know that the idea for this came from within the actual Helix team. It wasn't something like that came from external folks saying, you know, we need something like this. It was Eric's idea, I think, and he's saying, look, why don't we bring this format? And I think it is reasonably different from the HX Stomp and the HX Effects, that it could exist. £299 at the moment feels expensive relative to the HX Stomp and the HX Effects, which I think actually are incredibly good value. This feels, you know, $299, not the cheapest pedal out there, not the most expensive. It kind of all rests on what you think of the Helix kind of models and whether you think there's value in that or not. One of my questions that I had was around how transparent is this going to sound, so I kind of did some little tests for myself with this in and with this outside of the signal chain. Is at the moment a noise gate which is on quite a lot of the default presets, which did interfere with things a bit, so I had to go in and literally turn that off. In the future I think that might get amended, but once I did that, I think it pretty much didn't interfere with my signal chain. You can judge for that based on this audio. I did some null tests with it and it seemed like it was basically the same kind of signal, I think. So not going to interfere with your signal too much. One model at a time. So if you're looking for a way to do that, something like the updated Line 6 M5, the HX1, I guess, could be for you.